Okay, so this is the help video for the figurative language assignment for this remote week. It's figurative language exercise 28 and exercise 29. So I'm going to start with 28. In 1802, Meriwether Lewis began preparations to explore the land from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains. You would have thought that Lewis was going to the moon. He studied maps. He learned how to take measurements by the stars and figure out directions. He ordered guns and supplies. He talked to geographers, botanists, and zoologists. He had a keel boat built. He chose a co-leader, William Clark, and a crew. Adventure called, and in 1804, the team set off. All right, so again, we're looking for figurative language, and they give one to us. You would have thought that Lewis was going to the moon. So right away when I read that, I go, that can't happen in real life. So this is figurative. This is figurative language. So of our four, metaphor, personification, simile, and hyperbole, which describes this? Is it comparing two unlike things without using like or as? Is it giving human traits to something that's not human? Is it comparing two unlike things using like or as? Or is this an exaggeration to prove a point? For number two, these words suggest. So what does this person mean when they say, you would have thought that Lewis was going to the moon? And then he explains himself. He studied maps. He learned how to take measurements by the stars and figure out directions. He ordered guns and supplies. So what does the author mean by it was almost like Lewis was going to the moon? All right, find and underline another example of figurative language. I'm going to go ahead and give that to you, and that's adventure called. So of the four, that takes care of number three, of the four types of figurative language, which is it? Adventure called, is that comparing two unlike things without using like or as? Is it giving human traits to something that's not human? That would be personification. Is it comparing two unlike things using like or as? Or is it hyperbole, an extreme exaggeration to prove a point? And whichever one of those four you think it is needs to go on this blank here. And the last one, number 5. What is the meaning then when he says, adventure called, and in 1804 the team set off? What does it mean to say adventure is calling? And so that will be number 5. All right, number 29, or exercise 29. I like this one. A shoe by the roadside is an untold story. Where is the mate? How did it get there? Many people are curious about shoes lying on the sides of roads. They have come up with several explanations. One idea is that the shoes were tossed out of cars by children during arguments. Another idea is that hikers accidentally dropped a shoe. A third theory is that the shoes fell out of garbage trucks. No one knows for sure. These single roadside shoes don't tell their secret. All right, so our first type of figurative language, a shoe by the roadside is an untold story, and they give that one to us. Well, shoes are not stories that are untold. That's impossible. Shoes are shoes. Pieces of leather that we put on our feet. So, but we're calling the shoe an untold story. So, is that comparing two unlike things without using like or as? Is it giving human traits to something that's not human? Is it comparing two unlike things using like or as? Or is it an extreme exaggeration meant to prove a point? And this is one, again, number 2, is going to help us answer number 1. Because it's comparing two things, then it has to be either a metaphor, which compares two things without using like or as, or a simile, which compares two things using like or as. So it's not personification, and it's not hyperbole, because two things are being compared here. A shoe by the roadside is an untold story. So what two things are being compared there? All right, number 3 wants us to highlight another example, and that is this right here. So that takes care of number 3. These single roadside shoes don't tell their secret. Well, shoes can't tell us anything, and they certainly don't keep secrets. So this is figurative language. It's not literal, and we need to figure out which type it is. So when they say these single roadside shoes don't tell their secret, is that two things that are not alike that are being compared without using like or as? Is it giving human traits to something that's not human? Is it comparing two unlike things using like or as? Or is it an extreme exaggeration meant to prove a point? So whichever one you think that is, that's going to go on the blank for number 4. And then lastly, number 5 is wanting us to explain what this means. What does the author mean by these single roadside shoes don't tell their secret? If they obviously can't talk and they don't keep secrets, then the author is trying to prove a point with these words. What point is he trying to prove about shoes? These shoes on the side of the road. All right, if you have any further questions, you can send me a message in Google Classroom. You can send me an email. Your parents can message me on Blooms. This is due when you return from your remote days.